Lyft entering the European market, buying taxi app FREENOW in a $200 million deal. The acquisition will allow Lyft to expand in more than 150 cities across 9 countries. Joining us now to discuss the news, David Risher. He is Lyft's CEO. David, thank you so much for coming in studio with us this morning. We appreciate it. Talk to me about this move. Why does this make sense now? I know you've been focused a little bit more domestically as of late.
Well, so that's it. So for the last couple of years, we've been very focused domestically, and we now have better service than we've ever had before. We pick people up faster than ever. We're profitable, we're generating cash, and so now's the time for us to go big and go global. We're actually doubling our market size, the addressable market, by going to Europe with FREENOW.
It's interesting that this is the moment to go global when we are in the middle of a, perhaps you could call it a global trade war with the United States and several other countries. How are you thinking about the impact of that as you think to expand? Are you going to use, Lyft branding in Europe? Are you going to stick with FREENOW? And how do you think about kind of the American image on a global stage right now?
Right. I mean, look, we're thinking long term, and I'm still, I'm betting on America long term, no question. Short term, we'll definitely be operating as 2 different brands. Nothing is going to change for riders or drivers. But FREENOW is a great product. It's actually a taxi-first product, which if you're in the US, you might think taxis and you have a certain sort of impression here in New York City. But globally, taxis are an incredibly important business. Think of black cabs in London. Think of a Mercedes in Germany taking you to the airport. That's kind of what we're trying to kind of connect with.
Speaking of airports, I do want to get a sense of what you're seeing on the consumer side of things. Have you seen any slowdown in airport travel?
Not significant. We look pretty closely at these things, and it is true, maybe a tiny bit of softness on the airport side, but that's frankly made up for by a little bit of strength actually on people just kind of going out during the week. So nothing significant for us. Lyft is, we do about 2 million rides a day, and drivers make, billions of dollars a year on it. It's really part of people's daily lives, not a discretionary thing that you might cut back on.
Okay, so talk to me about that. Where are you seeing evidence that this is part of someone's daily life, that it sounds like you're describing it as a recession-proof necessity versus something that people can scale back?
I think so. Look, people, again, it's just better to be driven around by somebody else, right? Think of it. You're in the back seat, you can text, you can take a nap, you can talk to the driver if you want to. So, and for a lot of people, rather than, parking and so on and so forth, it's just a better way to get around. So what we've seen is, and this, quarter after quarter, growth. We have more drivers on the platform than ever. We have more active riders on the platform than ever. So I don't know, recession-proof is a dangerous thing to say, you never know, but I would say we're, as I say, pretty baked into people's lives.
And talk to me about how you prevent folks in bigger cities that do have access to things like public transportation from utilizing that a little bit more. Obviously, I'm having my East Coast bias right now being based in New York City, but I have a lot of people in my life who've said, okay, we're worried about a recession. We're taking the subway even on a Saturday night.
Right. Well, I tell you what, so we operate bike systems across the United States as well, and it's interesting. We've actually seen some record highs in places like San Francisco, where the weather's a little nicer. Even here in New York, a couple weeks ago, there's a crazy warm day. So, maybe what we'll find is more people are biking and fewer people are taking rideshare. But again, it's the sort of thing that I think for most people, how they get around, going to the doctor, going to the dentist, going for a job interview, it's a pretty basic part of people's lives.
Another element of business news that I want to talk to you about is what we're seeing in terms of activist investors taking a stake in Lyft and looking to have those additional board seats. Talk to me about how you're thinking about interacting with those activist investors.
Sure. So we interact with investors all the time, of course, and take shareholder concerns super seriously. We've been in dialogue with these guys for a little bit, but I think really, we tend to look sort of long term and notice, again, we're profitable now. We're generating, $700 million of cash. Never been stronger financially, so we feel really good about our position. But there's a whole process to deal with the activists.
Are there, and I should mention Engine Capital as well. Are there any concerns that they've brought up that you feel are valid concerns, that are things that you're also worried about in terms of the company moving forward?
The types of things they're bringing up are things like, gosh, we'd like to see you, global. Gosh, here we are. We'd like to see you return capital to shareholders. Well, good news, we announced a $500 million share buyback at the end of last quarter. So I think we're actually pretty well aligned with the sorts of things that all of our shareholders are bringing up.
And to that end, I know you have cash on the balance sheet, obviously, to utilize for things like acquisitions. How are you thinking about pricing power in this moment where consumers may be a little bit more pressured? Are you thinking about doing anything to make rides a little bit cheaper? I know that's kind of been your competitive advantage already, but how do you think about that moving forward?
Yeah, so our pricing strategy is to be competitive and reliable. People really don't like all the surge pricing and stuff like that, and so we took out something like $40 million of surge pricing last year, sort of just to really make sure that prices are stable. In terms of the competitive dynamic, as I say, we tend to be competitive on price. We hope we're a little bit cheaper over time. We definitely hope we pick you up faster than the other guys, and we do, about 40 seconds faster than they do. But right now, I think we're actually priced pretty well.
There's another competitor in the room, Waymo, which, according to some reports, is a little bit cheaper in certain cities here. Bank of America did downgrade Lyft on Waymo's expansion. What is your pitch to consumers about going with Lyft versus an autonomous vehicle?
Well, I mean, Lyft does maybe 2 million rides a day. Other companies like Waymo, which is a self-driving company, great company, but it's very, very small compared to that. So my big pitch is basically like, look, we're a great service. We'll pick you up fast. If you want to talk to the driver, if you want help with your luggage, if you want the safety and sort of security that having somebody else in the car gives you, great. But self-driving is great as well.
Are you concerned about Waymo taking market share?
No. And I say that because look, all the self-driving companies have the same issue, which is that it's a very expensive technology. And so over time, what they're going to want to do is partner with organizations like ours. We have a partnership with May Mobility, for example, that launches in Atlanta later this year. We'll have other announcements coming over time, of course. So, look, there'll be competitive skirmishes for sure in different parts of the country maybe. But I think broadly speaking, what we've seen with self-driving cars is they actually expand the market. People come and say, this is a cool new product. I want to give it a try.
Getting used to kind of that ride share capability if they haven't
Exactly.
been exposed to it previously. I do want to end on a wonky part of the market that we've been really focused on, which is the currency headwinds that we're facing. We're seeing declines in the US dollar. Now that you are expanding internationally, how are you thinking about that? Is that a concern to you?
I mean, again, long term, I think, I've got a lot of faith in the US and the US currency. FREENOW is a great company, but it's about $1 billion in bookings compared to our $16 billion in bookings. So in terms of actual exposure, it's quite small. And maybe it's not such a bad thing to be sort of, get a broader, basket of currencies. But again, I'm long US. Long
US, all right. Very good to hear as a US-based CEO. Real quick, I hear a rumor that you get around the city on the city bike.
I do.
Here. Is that true?
In fact, I biked here this morning.
Wow.
Yeah.
You couldn't tell by the crisp white shirt. I'm jealous that you're able to do the biking. I don't have that capability. You'll have to give me some of your tips and tricks, David.
I'll do it next time. It's great to talk to you, Madison.
Great to speak with you. Thank you for coming in studio. Really appreciate it.